Good afternoon, everybody. It is now Friday, August 2nd, 2019, on a bright, sunny, and hot day here in my little hometown of New York. Of course, I'm not going to tell you where I actually live. That would be rather foolish. But we're going to get right into it. We begin today with the Yankees' very dormant deadline. Obviously, they settled for a single-A pitcher from the Colorado Rockies organization, and that was all. And I, like many other Yankees fans, were left rather perplexed, and maybe some were fairly enraged by the Yankees' lack of activity. And I understand that, and I felt and still feel the same way today. Now, I understand there was not a lot of pitching out there. There was not a lot of quality pitching out there. Zack Greinke, for the record, was never going to become a Yankee because of the fact that he had a no-trade clause in his contract, which had a list of teams that he did not want to be traded to. The Yankees were one of them. Same with Madison Bumgarner of the San Francisco Giants, who also was not going to be traded regardless. And it's frustrating because Marcus Stroman was traded to the Mets in what was probably the most shocking move of the season for the little sister of the New York Yankees. I thought Marcus Stroman was going to be a Yankee, and obviously I was wrong. I've been wrong before, and I was dead wrong on that. But if there's any good news to come out of that, at least he won't be pitching against the Yankees this year, despite his struggles at Yankee Stadium, as the numbers indicate very strongly. And even more shocking is, at the literal last second before the trade deadline would have been closed, the Houston Astros swooped in and acquired Zack Greinke. And now he complements Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole and Wade Miley in the rotation. And now the Houston Astros are the betting favorites to win the World Series this year. They are now 2-1 favorites to win it all, not shockingly. And I get it. The Yankees rotation had the worst week ever for an American League rotation. And I thought that was enough of a sign for Brian Cashman to at least attempt to make some kind of maneuver. So now it's clearly obvious that they will wait on Dellin Betances and Luis Severino to both get healthy, and perhaps even Deivi Garcia will be called up as well. And obviously, the Yankees have a familiar foe tonight in the Boston Red Sox, and it will be another 4-game set at Yankee Stadium. The first game will be tonight at 7:05 p.m., as James Paxton will take on Eduardo Rodriguez. Tomorrow night, it's Domingo Germán and to be determined for the Boston Red Sox. And tomorrow night is actually, in fact, a doubleheader, so I expect the Yankees to use Chad Green as an opener for the first or perhaps the second game tomorrow. More likely than not the second one. And on Sunday night, it'll be J-Happ against David Price, so two lefties on the mound for that game. And look, I had pretty high hopes when the Yankees fought the Boston Red Sox a couple of days back. Now look, am I panicking? No. The Red Sox are not going to win this division, folks. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, stranger things have happened, this, that. Well, you know what? It's not been good for the Red Sox because since they took 3 or 4 from the Yankees, they got swept by the Rays and they are now 10.5 games behind for the division lead. And the Tampa Bay Rays are 7 games behind. And the Red Sox are still 3.5 games out of a wild card spot as well. So, certainly not an insurmountable deficit, but nonetheless still a fairly hefty one, especially at this point in the season with 2 months to go. And so, never mind burying the Red Sox. This is a chance to bury their most recent trip to Fenway for the Yankees. And it's a chance for the rotation to redeem itself too. Particularly for James Paxton, who, perhaps next to J-Happ, has been the biggest disappointment for the Yankees this year. Both are pretty up in the air about that. So we will see how that pans out for the Yankees tonight. And again, first pitch is at 7:05 tonight. And tomorrow is a doubleheader, as previously mentioned. And So Yankees fans, you've got a chance to meet Bernie Williams, Johnny Damon, and other Yankees legends between games tomorrow night, which is something that I myself may end up taking advantage of. But today in Yankee history also brings a rather somber memory and some very poignant recollections back, because it is the 40th anniversary of the death of Thurman Munson, when he crashed his plane and there were only 2 survivors remaining. And as Mike Vaccaro of the New York Post noted in his column today, or his column from last night rather, he notes that he and his brother were on the front porch, and his brother was bawling his eyes out, and of course, a lot of Yankees, or the whole team, went to the funeral, and Bobby Mercer and Reggie Jackson, who the latter of whom, despite his feuds with Thurman Munson, I always felt had the most respect for him, were bawling in the outfield and in the infield during the game. They had a wake for him, and then the Yankees played one of the most memorable games ever, and the 79 season ended up being a lost one, but perhaps also one of the least forgotten seasons ever in team history. I mean, not enough could have ever been said about the character, the intellect, and the unflappable demeanor of Thurman Munson. And George Steinbrenner was going to name him manager of the team, despite his 20-some-odd firings in his first 23 years as owner. But it's hard to believe it's already been 40 years since that has happened, and there aren't many, if any, better people in the world of baseball and sports in general than Thurman Munson, and we will always remember his legacy as Yankee captain. And don't forget, Thurman Munson was there when the Yankees were doing absolutely terrible in the late 60s. Of course, you had the Miracle Mets in 1969, which was Thurman Munson's rookie year. Well, rather, his rookie year was in 1970, but he took his first couple of at-bats in 1969 after being drafted in the first round, 4th overall of the 1968 draft out of Kent State University. And as if his debut game wasn't fitting enough, on August 8th, 1969, Thurman Munson's first ever game, out of the 1,423 games that he played, he recorded 2 hits and drove in 2 runs. And ultimately, that became a testament to him. And I mean, call him what you want, the Tugboat, Squatty Body, or the Walrus were among his more prominent nicknames. Thurman Munson experienced struggle like no other Yankee during that particular time period. In 1969, the Yankees finished dead last in the AL East. They won 80 and 81. In 1970, they did have a winning season. They won 93 and 69, but still missed the playoffs. 1971, 82 and 80, finished 4th in the AL East, missed the playoffs. 1972, finished 4th, no playoffs. And then 1973, the year George Steinbrenner purchased the team from CBS for $8.8 million. The Yankees won 80 and 82, but by 76, they won the pennant, and they won it 3 years in a row from 76 through 78, and they beat the Dodgers in 2 straight World Series in 77 and 78. And Thurman Munson's jet, or private plane, was a $1.2 million twin engine. But his wife, Diana Munson, had claimed that Thurman was not properly trained by Flight Safety International. But many legal documents and battles and scourges later, at the end of the day, we want to remember Thurman Munson for the sensational human being that he was and is, and the magnificent, magnanimous teammate that he was, and the amount of respect that his teammates had for his demeanor, his character, his integrity, his sportsmanship, and above all, his heart, cannot be forgotten ever in Yankees lore. And now, obviously, I I was nowhere near alive when Thurman Munson played. I wish I could have gone to see him in person. In the Bronx Zoo era of the Yankees was something I wish I had witnessed, as Howard Cosell so adequately labeled it. I wish I was able to see it. But I do have YouTube clips, and I suppose that's good enough in a way. But if you're a Yankee fan, or if you're a sports fan in general, take a moment today to reflect on Thurman Munson and how we hope his personality traits can hopefully translate into today's world, because God knows we need them more than ever. And maybe he'll be present at Yankee Stadium today. Perhaps he can create some events that can help the Yankees beat the Red Sox and hopefully sweep them as well. We hope. But Thurman, we all know that you were a wonderful teammate. We hope your family is well. And we know your teammates remember your great legacy. And folks, that's all we have for today for this Yankees podcast. And as I said, first pitch is at 7:05 tonight. We have James Paxton taking on Eduardo Rodriguez. And hopefully the Yankees can recover and forget about their last trip to Fenway Park, and hope they can kick the Red Sox's ass tonight. Thank you for listening as always, folks.